Hey all, Pixel here, and we're gonna finally work on that rot right there on the quarter panel. So, to be honest, I have been putting this off. Uh, through various machinations, working on the van, found the other rust in here and decided that was a priority and everything. I've been putting off doing this because I don't know if I can do it right. It's been sort of imposing because I don't know if I can fix this correctly, and I want to fix it correctly, so it's just kind of stalled me. Basically what I'm going to need to do is this whole section you can see that's all routed out from about, basically where I drew. All needs to be cut out. A new piece needs to be put in there. The thing is, it's a very gentle curve, and I need to form a piece that at least roughly approximate, gets that more or less right, because I don't want to have something that's totally wrong here and then pack it with Bondo to make it fit. So I need to cut it out. I need to cut another piece with the flange on it because it comes around the edge here. This is part of what makes it complicated is there's this flange here. I got to take this all out. I got to cut this all out, expose it. There's an inner flange you can see is all also rotted. I've decided I'm just going to cut that completely away and just depend on the outer flange here because fixing this inner part would be very difficult, and it is what trapped the moisture and dirt to begin with and caused all this rot. So there's no reason to make an effort to put it back in there. And then, so once I've taken this out, once I've removed that, I have to cut a piece, put a little bend in it, and then very carefully with the shrinker and stretcher, try and make it match this radius. And I don't know if I can do that. I don't know. I've never done this before. This is entirely new. The whole reason like I said before, the whole reason I bought this car and the whole reason I get involved in projects like this is to do something I've never done before. I just leap in with both feet. And sometimes I hit something that's really imposing like this. So I think what I need to do is stick a piece of paper in here and trace the curve of the door so I have something when I'm over at the shrinker stretcher to at least roughly measure against. And then I need to start hacking this away. I'm gonna just barely cut this away and then make the piece bigger so that once I've got it formed correctly, like that'll let me lay it on top of here to see if it's matching the rough curve of the panel here. And then that'll let me cut it to fit exactly so I don't have to worry about having too big a gap or anything like that. This is today's project, but also I have to fix up here, which involves me figuring out how the hell this trim comes off. I think I'm going to have to take everything off down here to get this off because there's some rot here that I may or may not be able to patch just with a welder, but there's bigger rot there, and I suspect there's more problems under there. And then there's this here. You can see the rot holes, but also, I don't know how well it shows up in camera, this has got fiberglass in it that all needs to get ground away, and I'm sure there will be rot there because the only reason to put fiberglass there is if there was rot there. So that's all going to need to be fixed. But we need to figure out how to do this, so I'm just going to get into it, I guess. All right, we're making some progress. I made two of these because the first one, the 90-degree bend wasn't tight enough. It was a very gradual bend, so it wasn't going to look right. So this one I've been trying to fit up, and I've gotten it wrong, but it's in a fixable way, I believe. The main reason I decided to show you is because I had you up on the stretcher, and we need to get that out. But like, you can see it's sort of, I don't know how well this is going to translate, but it works pretty well. Then you get in here and this is too tight. I compressed this too much. So I need to stretch that back out to straighten it a little bit there. But then if you get past that and put it here, I obviously need to put more of a bend there, but I need to fix this one first. And then I have too much of a bend here. So I'm going to keep having to fiddle with this. You ever have that moment when you suddenly have a terrible realization? Did you notice the problem? Stop the video and put it in the comments if you think you spotted it. All right, yeah. This is for the wrong side of the car. That can't go there. I bent it wrong. I laid it out wrong. Because I drew the line off of the door. Oops. All right, well, I'm going to save this. I'll put it up here and hope I remember it, because I'll use that for the other side. Anyway, it's 9 o'clock now, so I'm going to stop for the night, because if I'm making this level of error, I don't want to just burn through my sheet metal making more errors. So I'll come out another day, but at least I'm working on it. So whatever. Wasted work is still learning, so it's not wasted, I guess. All right, it is like a couple weeks later, but I'm getting back at it. So in the last video, I'd been working on making a patch here, and I'd screwed up and made one mirror imaged to what it needed to be. So today, we're going to try and get it right. Yeah, now that I'm looking at this door edge is actually bent in slightly, so it is not a perfect template. It definitely comes in some... Hang on, let me get a straight edge. All right. Yeah, I don't know how well that's showing up on camera, but both panels kind of curve in. So I don't actually know what the best way to do this is. Problem is, yeah, this whole door edge bends in to one degree or another. Like, it's really bad right there. I think I'm going to try and hammer that out a little bit, see if I can get that. Yeah, there's definitely one specific real bad dent in it. And then the rest of it's just sort of a little bit bent in. But I think I'm going to try and get that a little bit straighter, and then make a new template off this, and then go back to try and make that piece. Alright, so this is much improved. I don't know how well the camera is going to pick this up, but it no longer massively dips in. I've got a little lip of sorts right there. But while it's still in a little bit in this area, it's not too far off, and I don't want to go bashing at it anymore. So we're going to call that good. I'm going to make a new template off this, do it in the right direction. All right, I'm back on the bench. Cleaned it of Prius residue, taped down my pattern. Now I know that this needs to go this way. It's been cut to size, it's had the 90-degree put in it. And as you can see, it needs a bunch of bending. So for most of this, like before, most of this is a pretty gradual bend, and then it sharpens up further on. So I'm going to try and figure out a way to mark that to myself, and then I'm going to very carefully do this bending, because last time I bent it a little too far. So bending it back is more of a pain in the ass, so I'd rather underbend it and creep up on it while I'm learning this. So yeah, I'm just going to set you up on time lapse, and I'm going to F with it and see what happens. I've done some bending on this. Then I stopped and I fitted it to the car, which involved cutting away this because I intended to cut away some of the top and some of the bottom, but it ended up that the curve I've already got is already really good near the top, so there was no reason to try and move that curve down so I could cut more off the top. But it fits really nicely, and right about where this little star is here, it starts to, like, that right there is flat, which means that this part starts coming out of the body. So I got to put a little bit more of a shallow bend across here to try and just transition that down. But I'm really surprised this part's coming together really nice. Like, it fits okay on here, but man, when I fit it up to the car, it fits really nice. So we're going to put a little bit more of a bend in the middle here, and then we're going to fit it up to the car again. Just went in, fitted it again, and I took a little of it over here, but I took off over here because part of the problem was my flange is a little too thick and it was rocking on a point on the flange. So I took it like, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch off, something like that. Still a little too flat here. So this part fits well, this part fits pretty well, but right here in the middle, that sort of transition point between the sharper curve and the shallower curve still needs a little bit of work. I'm being very careful now to sort of approach this cautiously because I don't want to overbend there. Like I said before, overbending makes more work for myself. So I'm going to fit this up again. All right, fitted it up again, and I'm still, now I need to put more of a curve across this whole general area because the top will fit nice, the bottom will fit nice, but either side will be up very slightly when I try and fit the whole thing. And it's definitely this center area just doesn't curve enough. Let's try that. All right, trimmed a little more over here, and it looks like this whole part down here, or mostly this end here, needs a little bit more of a curve. I'm going to try and see if I can put a curve, like put the jaws right at the edge of this and see if I can just bring this edge, because this really starts to steepen up. And if I can just get this edge over just the tiniest bit, I think it'll fit better. I've done what I was afraid of. I've gone too far. You can see that last round over here, for some reason, really bent this. I think maybe because the flanges. I think if the flange is shorter, it puts some more aggressive bend in it because it's easier for it to do it. But you can see I've now overbent this end. So now I'm going to have to use the stretcher to try and, this last like inch and a half, straighten that out. It looks like at the worst of it's right there. But while that's messing with it, the rest of the curve I'm really liking. That little bit I put in the top didn't really do much, but I think it may have sucked it in just that tiniest little bit. All right, 1 or 2 more rounds that I just didn't bother to show you, and this is where I am. I don't know how you look. It's pretty good. Like, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. It's maybe a little bit higher there. Comes in there, and then there's the bump here, but I realize that's going to be like right under or at the trim, so it's going to be a lot less noticeable, so I have to F with it a little to get it right in the final bodywork. It'll be kind of hidden because it'll be right at where the trim is. But overall, I'm pretty happy with that. Like, that came out pretty darn good, especially because I've never once done this before. I think I can call that a pretty good win. So now what I need to do is mark where this panel is on here, so I know exactly what it covers, and then pull that off, figure out what I'm keeping and what I'm not, because I don't want to go all the way out to here if I can avoid it. You know, probably gonna have to go to about here, but as little of this as I can use, the better. And so what I'm gonna do is figure that out, make some marks so I know, and then come in and cut both at the same time, because this all needs to get sucked over by about the thickness of the metal. So if I cut these both together, that should allow me to push this back once the inner piece is out, and have it fit pretty good. Related, once I've cut the tops and the bottoms, I need to come in here and grind off all of these spot welds so that I can get this whole piece out. Actually, I don't even have to come in anywhere near it. I can see how much of it I actually need. Needs like maybe half of it at the widest point. So now comes the fun part. I get to hack into my quarter panel. Alright, compressor's refilling, so I'm going to pause here to show you. So I hacked this all out. I'm currently getting the spot welds off to get the inner bit here off. About what I expected. This stretch, like in this plane, seems to be pretty much fine, but this is all gone and trashed. It also was bent in. The prior repair that somebody did was to stuff this crack full of Bondo. And they, in the process, bent a lot of this in. So I'm pretty much going to just come in and slice it right along there, because there's not enough of that to save. And then obviously I got to get all the rust and stuff off of here. So I'm going to, as soon as the compressor catches up, I'm going to get these last like 3-ish spot welds out. I'm going to come in and cut this and do a quick just rust removal, just get the worst of it off so that I can start fitment. And once I get the fit as good as I think I'm going to get it, this is going to get proper rust removal and treatment. And then tomorrow I'll come in and start the welding on it, because I want to get this rust dealt with before I cover it back over again. Stay. Alright, so I got all that out. I got to give it a quick cleanup. I cut this out. This is actually solid here, so I'm going to leave it. What I did was it angled out to meet the end of this lip, so I just changed that angle to meet the front of this. So I had a quick cleanup. It's going to need a final one, but when I go to put this in, fits very nice at the top, comes along pretty good, and this area through here needs more. Either it needs more curve, or the fender or the quarter needs to come in some. But overall, it fits really nice. I'm really, really happy with that. Having never done this before, that came out shockingly good. Let's get all my stuff out of the way and shut the door and see what that looks like. It is definitely too flat right in through here. I don't have it perfectly lined up, but even without that, well, maybe, you know. Straight edge. Where the hell's my straight edge? Let's do this the smart way. All right, the door definitely curves in. So if I put this across, it hits the quarter here and the door over here. And this whole section curves in. So I think because the entire door has a curve to the end of it, I'm not going to get that straight with my body working skills without just piling Bondo on it. So I think what I'm going to do is, this curve is pretty good to the door. I may put just the slightest more bevel in it, but even then I'm a little nervous I'll be doing too much. But yeah, I think this area right here could use just the tiniest bit more bevel, but other than that, this fits really nicely. I'm super happy. The gap isn't bad. It's definitely higher at the bottom and smaller at the down through. I need to take a little bit of material off the back here so I can push this back just slightly. But the gap's not too bad, and it's definitely something I can adjust by trimming, like grinding the edge of the door. Wow, that end is really... when it's done, it spurts a bit. But yeah, no, that's pretty good. There's definitely some weirdness in the edge of the door right here where it's hammering on it. Like there's a dent here that looks like it's stretched. The edge of the door has the very slightest little pucker outwards. But no, for never having done this before, I'm really happy with that. So I'm going to mark the area that could use a little bit more bow. I'm going to attempt to remember how this thing works. See if I can do that. There we go. And I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to put just the slightest little bit of curve on that. And then I'm going to call that good shape-wise. This upper corner isn't right, but I think it's not right in a way where I need to weld the edge here and then kind of push that around until I like it. Because there's a bit of a compound curve there. But no, yeah, overall, that fits super well. I'm actually a little bit shocked at how good that fits. I was so sure I was going to basically screw this whole thing up so badly I'd have to restart it. I mean, I guess I kind of did in that I did it mirrored, but yeah. So let me put some... So I think I'm done with the fun stuff for tonight. I'm going to, like I said, put a little bit more bend in this. I'm going to clean up in there some more. Get the phosphoric acid on that so that I can treat it. So I come back the next day, paint it. I also have to come in here tomorrow or whenever I'm ready to paint. This is lead because there's a couple panels that meet here. I have to grind all that lead out so that I can weld in there because the lead will F up the weld. So all this lead has to come out and then I'm just going to replace it with filler when I do my body work. But yeah. And another new day. Let's get it welded in. All right, so I went through with a variety of different things and ground as much of the rust as I possibly could off of this inner surface. Treated it with the phosphoric acid, waited for that to dry, ground more rust off, treated it a second time, ground more rust off, and then treated it with the weld through copper primer. This has been treated with the copper primer as well. I drilled some holes for spot welds. I'm also going to use those same holes for screws to tack it in possibly. I haven't 100% decided on that, but we are basically as ready as we're going to be. Oh, I also ground out and then used a torch to melt out the lead down here. And so hopefully I've gotten all the lead out so it'll weld well. You can see the seam that the lead was hiding. That's going to get fillered with modern filler at the same time I do the rest of this. So let's see if I can get this welded in nice and straight. Alright, so I'm having this weird problem where, so it was welding fine, and then for no reason I can decipher, it started having this thing where I set the welder there, I pull the trigger, and as soon as the wire touched, it would just start pushing the gun back, and the wire would barely get warm. And I thought it was a ground issue, so I cleaned up the ground and tried it in a different spot. And that doesn't seem to be affecting it. So now I have to experiment to try and figure out what the hell is going on. I don't know if this is a welder fault or what, but yeah, so. You can see, it's not, did the inverter go bad in the weld? Like, it's just not producing enough oomph beyond that initial spark to do anything. I mean, what if I just do it directly to the ground? Oh, even then. I didn't change any of my settings, so I don't know what the hell's going on. Feels like a ground issue. I don't know how it's a ground issue, but it feels like a ground issue. No, because it can't even directly to the ground. It's a weird one. That's hot. Like, just out of curiosity, crank the voltage to maximum. Okay. So it'll still weld. It's just for some reason something is shifted? I mean, even then, I don't know if that's a properly hot thing. Okay, hopefully it's a hot weld, because that'll burn right through. So, put the voltage back down where, more or less where I was. Weird. Okay, I don't know what the hell was going on there. But, alright, well, whatever, it's working, that's all I care about. And it's back to welding like normal. No idea what that was, but as long as it's resolved itself, that's the important part. All right, and here we are. It's still, I haven't 100% finished grinding it down, but I wanted to get a better idea of what it looked like. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I messed up the gap slightly trying to get the inner flange in so I could weld it. So this has got a little bit of a whoop, whoop, whoop now, where I hit it with the hammer, but that's okay. I mean, looks pretty good. I mean, again, ain't no pro at this, but yeah, don't worry about the fact that there's still little ridges from the welds. I'm going to come back in and do that with a smaller thing, but looks pretty good. I get my straight edge out. Let's see if I can... We're way in down there, but we knew that already. Again, the door and the thing are in there. That's pretty good there. That's pretty good there. That's pretty good there. I'm okay with it having a very slight dip here because it means I can put a little bit of filler in it and get that smooth. But overall, yeah. I mean, see what happens. Like if you step back, it's not, it doesn't scream out at you other than obviously shiny. I'm pretty happy with that. Yeah. I should have been a little bit more gentle trying to do the fitting at the end there, but that's okay. I can do a little bit of metal work, I can do a little bit of Bondo work, and that'll look good. The gap here is not perfect, but it's pretty darn good, all things considered. And I can work that edge. There's a gap between the inner panel and the outer panel at the top. So I can still work this inner edge in a little bit if I'm very, very careful about it. I may do it with the slapper. So that, yeah, after all of that, that's finally welded up. I'm just gonna do the other side. No, just kidding. So yeah, I still have this up here I need to deal with, which is going to involve taking all this trim off. And I still have this here and the inside of that to finish rust repair. And I have to finish the inner structure back here. But that's a nice milestone, having that closed back up again for the first time since before I owned the car, because some prior owner effed that all up. So because I got to get a video out this week, I'm going to call that there and say that's a win. So I will talk to you all later. Bye.